Vallabh, on the point that you were making, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, where you stopped counting, if indeed on the 16th of May we are presented with a verdict that the UPA has, say, 180, 190, the NDA has 180, 190, and the rest is all other parties, do you think any of the formations which can happen subsequently can assure the market that we will have a stable government for 5 years? Forget about what policies each government might take, but can we then tell ourselves, whatever the government this is, whatever policies it takes, it will last for 5 years?
I think the leader of that coalition would be a very, very important factor. And the other important factor would be whether left is a part of that coalition or not. We have seen what can happen if the left is there. How much leadership Congress really had, one does not know, because they blame every lapse at the door of left. But I would think that if it is a centrist national government, national party leading the coalition, and one of the known faces, you would breathe rather easy. If you have an unknown person, we are now, having, we don't have a women's bill that is passing through the parliament, but we may have women leading the government and one after the other. So there are many, many frightening prospects. I would think that if it is NDA, UPA without the left in any combination, that's the best that the market can hope for.
Even an NDA which has Jayalalitha and Mayawati supporting it?
Then we'll get to the next level, which would mean that what is the leadership, how is the power divided, is it going to be a UP formula as in the past, where what can be expected. Therefore, at least you will begin to consider as to what the equation is, what the understanding is. But that's the best that I would hope for. I would at least say that let me read the newspaper beyond as to what is happening. But if that is not the case, I'm pretty worried.
Rakesh, how will the markets react to this outcome? 180, 180 and the rest, which means it has to be a very broad coalition which comes to power.
See, first of all, then markets are always uncertain. Now we don't know the government which is going to come, 180, 190, what can you speculate? See, then I would like to, focus rather on the long term. See, how is India going to grow double digit? Despite all this budget deficits, I'm an optimist and I can be wrong. That we need a government which needs to work to get an agriculture of the second green revolution. And you can't have the second green revolution unless you are ready to take some hard decisions. By paying 60,000 crores of fertilizer subsidy, you're not going to have a green resolution. You've got to consolidate land holdings. You've got to allow movement of food grains. You've got to invest in irrigation, right? Land acquisition. Somebody wants to invest $12 billion in Odisha. You can't acquire 500,000 acres of land. Largest single investment in India. Unless and until these matters are resolved, and I'm not very hopeful that whatever the government and whatever be the composition, that we're going to get a government, labor reforms. I'm in absolute favor of labor reforms. America has the most labor reforms in the world and effectively the lowest rate of unemployment in the world. Right? There's so many other factors. So what I feel is this government, whatever it is, will not be able to take the decisions that are needed. In the shorter term, I feel whether it is the third front, whether it's the Congress or it's the BJP, the budget deficits are not going to differ much. I don't know what hard decision the Congress has taken in the last 5 years.
Surely you're not saying that the market is neutral between those three options?
No, but market may not be neutral for the first 3 weeks. It may be neutral after that. Because remember one thing, what kind of a government have you got after Mr. Narasimha Rao's from 91 to 2009? I think every government has acted, whether third front, whether BJP, whether Congress, in a similar manner. Whatever decisions are needed, you just don't have the hard decisions, the real decisions. At the same time, I feel Indian democracy is maturing. Politicians are realizing that the person who can bring growth is the person who's re-elected. Mrs. Dixit was elected the third time. Right? So there will come a politician, and the day is not away, who will realize that the mantra to power is growth, growth, growth and growth. I am all for social justice. I want to pay 500 rupees per month to every lady below the poverty line. But where are you going to get the resources from? Mr. Yechuri will promise you the world, and then you'll have inflation of 700% here. So therefore, it is, how are you going to get the money to spend for the National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme? Unless you have growth, unless you have taxation. And you're not going to have the taxation by raising the rates. So I think what India really needs is hard decisions, good decisions, the will to implement them, right? And we are not going to get it from this government. At the same time, I don't feel that we're going to, any kind of government is going to let the fiscal deficit go to any level. Markets may react negatively or positively for the first 2-3 months, for the first 2-3 weeks. But then I think what's happening globally is going to influence the markets ultimately far more than what's going to happen in this election.
Vallabh, you're going to add in?
Yeah, I was saying that I think it may be a bit of a stretch to say that all the governments, were similar.
I don't think Rakesh believes that. I think he'll be shorting the Nifty if the third front came in, for sure. For sure.
Before the election.
Oh, before the elections, okay.
So I think over the last 15 years or 17 years, we've seen very, very different shades. I think it is entirely possible when I said that you have a nationalist kind of leadership within whatever combination, you could have a surprise like Vajpayee or a surprise like Narasimha Rao. I think I've spent a lot of time talking to people who are, putting forward a possibility that you could have a weak-looking government, a strong leader, and a good government. Unfortunately, in this country, governance has become a fiefdom, and you divide the goodies. And there are some people who are happy running their own revenue departments, and they are not concerned with policy. That's why whether left is a part of the government or not is very important, because that's the only party which has an ideological block. The rest are concerned with their own interest. And therefore, if you have a leader, politics is at the end of the day art of the possible. And it will always remain so. So sometimes you know how to take hard decisions in a manner that is acceptable to everyone. And I'd like to quote, I think it's an unsung act, and that is the Electricity Act, that Suresh Prabhu was able to do a financial closure of 92,000 crores. He settled all the dues. He saw to it, by passing the Electricity Act, that no state government can give free power, and several other things. We would be sitting in dark halls by now, but for the Electricity Act. And therefore, he did it within a coalition government. He is a non-politician from a small party like Shiv Sena. Therefore, I think there have been many acts where intelligent people have been able to achieve a lot within noisy coalition. And therefore, I would think the best thing for the market would be still to get one of them. Whether it is a possibility or not is a different issue altogether.